think it's so powerful. I think that's the most underutilized thing, especially within that kind of 1 to 5 mil range.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I went to... Did I tell you the yoga story ever?
No.
This is so bad. This happened fairly recently. I booked a yoga class at Third Space, and
Name drop.
I turned Third Space. I turned up, and I go in, and I'm just stood there, and then the yoga instructor's like, I don't think you're supposed to be here. I think you're at the wrong class. I said, no, I'm here for the yoga. And then she said, this is pregnancy yoga. And I just look around, and the room is just full of pregnant women and just me.
That was awkward.
Yeah, it's very awkward. I just slowly retreated backwards. And I just left the gym. I just I'm not even doing a workout. My ego's been stripped.
Tragic.
Welcome back to D2C Diaries. Ollie's a bit bunged up today, aren't you? So
yeah, wonder how I'm going to sound on the audio.
Probably that like crisp, sexy nasally voice.
Definitely not.
But yeah, today we're going to go deep into our research phase. And I think research arguably is probably the most important part of generating performance, and at least setting the foundations of how you can drive success for any ad account.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how many brands you come across, or businesses even, who just don't understand like exactly why people buy the products. Like they'll be selling loads of it, and they'll be positioning it in the wrong way, or they'll go through like a proper process like we've built, and it'll uncover like such huge clarity of understanding and step changes in results. I think it forms the basis of paid, but then I know when we had Olly on to discuss CRO, and it's a very, very similar research phase for every step of marketing really nowadays especially.
Yeah, for sure. And I think probably the biggest why this will be valuable is because even if you're a brand and you're like, oh, we've gone through an extensive research phase, like it's important to continue doing it. You think you just do it at the start and that's it, but things change, don't they?
Yeah, I think doing it every quarter. I also think you should do it after Black Friday is a really good time to do it, because your learnings will be different in Q4 a lot of the time, especially if you're a heavy gifting brand. Like the reason why people buy your products November to December, and the outcome of doing research in like Jan, and just storing that and then parking that up till the following Black Friday, January, Black Friday, Cyber Monday period is really impactful. So yeah, I think it's an evolving and continual process.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why we've stripped and rebuilt our whole research phase recently. And, you know, it shows the importance of it because we're getting better results because of going into much more depth as part of this process. So we're going to go deep into that and exactly what we do, even how we utilize, you know, ChatGPT bots to assist with that. Olly's going to go deeper into like the actual audit, which I think is also an important stage to start with as part of that research. And then we're going to go into some of the kind of core things that we do to, really set those foundations. So I guess like the first thing is, if you haven't set up a ChatGPT bot before, it's really important and a valuable piece of IP that you can use to learn about your brand and drive the best possible insights as you kind of grow, and you can feed the machine almost. So it's all about data really, with building a bot, and the more data it's got available to it, the more accurate and more valuable it's going to be to you. So the first thing with ChatGPT bots now, it kind of completely learns and stores any information that you upload to the bot. So the first thing that we would recommend doing in terms of uploading to that is your CSV reviews. I think you can learn so much about your reviews, and just to have them within the bot uploaded there is a good place to start. We've then got loads of like development prompts that you can use later down the line. The other things is then once completed, you would upload your audit documents and then all of your research documents that we're going to get into. So I guess like kicking us off with the actual ad account audit side, how do you approach that?
I just want to speak about the review upload actually.
Yeah, go on.
First, it's not to sieve ahead. I don't know. I don't know if I've just ruined your episode plan there. You jumping back. I think like that uploads of reviews is super powerful. I think if you're a brand where you're not working with an agency or you're not using a bot, there's also like Octane, the survey
Yeah.
that you can do it in their platform if you want to do it really quick and easy.
Yeah, or Octopass is another
Yeah,
one.
yeah, and I find it really useful not only for like not only for like creative strategy, but even just like asking it questions about product development, shipping processes,
Yeah,
site experience, especially if you're starting to get to like hundreds of thousands of reviews. You can go through
exactly.
product by product by product and just extract so many learnings. Also asking it to pull out like, oh, I need a really short review for this piece of copy. I want a review for this PDP.
Yeah.
Just such a time save.
Yeah,
and
we're
so
gonna
valuable.
show you how you can use those reviews as part of this process. But I think even just like the way you position prompts. So like one of them is like, what are some interesting patterns of the reviews that humans could miss? Things like that
Yeah.
just see how it can pull information from, obviously if you've got, you know, larger data sets there, what it can, some of those kind of interesting patterns that it can pull from that.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's super valuable. Well, yeah, I can dive into the ad account audit. I think like obviously auditing existing performance creative data is fundamental to any creative process. Whether you and this especially should be probably done on a weekly or bi-weekly cycle, not quarterly. Having someone in the business or as in an agency that's supporting a business just running this process constantly. But whenever we get into a new account, we kind of approach it in a kind of a systematic way to uncover like creative insights. So firstly, it's like time frame. You're looking 30, 90, 365 lifetime, like date ranges. I think obviously creative trends change, but I think a big feature of some accounts we look at is like people have maybe made this amazing ad and then never used the learnings from it again.
Yeah.
A surprising amount of brands that do that. So like pulling context from a large time window really does like have can just provide a lot of insights that we can then pull forward to today. But when doing that, it's really looking through creative and starting with CPA, like ultimate goal, like what ads have taken the most spend within target CPA. Those are the most significant creatives in the account. I feel like most brands usually have those like hero creatives, those silver bullets, like you've said before, which is like if you plot them on a distribution, they've just got abnormally large amounts of spend and large amounts of sales, and that's a signal that it's something about that is right, whether it's the creator, script, or a combination of those. And we want to really clearly like identify them, list them, and analyze them to like the nth degree, and see what we can take forward. Whether that's repurposing them for video statics, like really just using those assets as much as we can. We're then looking at like thumb stop rate, hooks, like are we under target? Are we under as an account average? We start with like industry-wide benchmark of like 30%, but then looking at like, right, what's a realistic hook rate for this account and how are we like benchmarking performance off that? Because not every product and niche is going to achieve like 30+% hook rate.
You find it's like usually lower on TikTok in comparison to Meta.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like TikTok, a good hook rate might be like 25%.
Yeah, I think lower CPM. Well, not that correlates directly, but I think the attention span. It's harder to gather capture someone's attention on that platform. That's also probably, I think, one of the areas that people struggle the most with is just hooking people in and capturing attention. Like the messaging frameworks for some brands can be good, but they're just falling down at the first hurdle and getting like 9% hook rate. And low hook rate doesn't always correlate to like bad performance, but I think it is often a leading indicator. So looking at like best performance from a CPA perspective, best hooks, like best hold rates. So assets that are capturing attention and then maintaining that throughout the asset and throughout the video. I think that's also a very overlooked metric. And then top assets by CTR. So like really going back on those time frames of 30 days, 90 days, 365 and lifetime, and listing those out.
And net hold rate is 8 to 10% as like a benchmark, and CTR is like 0.8 to 1 ish.
Yeah, around that. I think it's interesting. I would encourage people to put those. I've literally just done this for our brand on a whimsical board or a Miro board side by side, and just look at them from a top line perspective and be like, and it was really, and so I book it like 90 days, 30 days, 90 days, 365 lifetime visually across. And it was just so clear to me that we weren't diversifying the like look and feel of the asset enough. Like they looked too similar. But when you just view them on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you almost don't see that.
Yeah.
So pulling them to a larger time frame just made me realize we need to take bigger visual swings, especially across our statics, which we're now working on. But yeah, really mapping that out, getting like a clear, whether it's just in a sheet, and then again analyzing creatives. So running the videos through ChatGPT, pulling the scripts, pulling the hooks, writing the hooks out, like really analyzing like why did this work, writing it out next to the asset, and then
Google Gemini is really good for that as well. So you can like upload a video to Google Gemini and tell it the data. So this got this thumb stop, this CTR, this CPA, whatever it might be. What could we do to push this forward, or what are some of the nuances that meant this creative worked? And it will actually give you pretty accurate information on why that might be. Because I think this auditing phase was really important. Like, and what I see brands do too often is they will report on the data, but then there's no like hypothesizing around like why you got to that point and why the data is what it is and how you can push that forward. You almost really need to have that reflection of like, okay, why did we get this?
You need to take conclusions from that test. Like it can't just be like, oh, it's worked. It's like, right, why did it work? What can I conclude? What can I take as a negative conclusion and a positive conclusion? I would also like, I wouldn't give it as much time as winners, but I would also take a look at like some of the trends within the assets that just aren't working. Like anything you can learn from that. It's a little bit harder because you'll usually have more losers than winners in an account. That's just like the nature of creative, but they can tell you a lot. So yeah, I think really writing out those granular learnings across top assets, top hooks, all of those metrics that we mentioned, and then like taking a step back and like I just mentioned around how we did that with that board is like, what are the general observations and trends across those? Can you recognize any patterns? Can you identify like strengths within your creative process, weaknesses or opportunities, which I think is also so key. Just from taking that like 30,000 foot view of like what's been in the account and what the data is telling you at that point. And that'll be super like illuminating for many brands. It's like there'll be clear things they're not doing. Like there'll be maybe gifts they're not testing. There'll be creator demos they're not leaning into. Everything will look very similar in some ways or different in others, I think. And you can just start to sort of hypothesize new ways of approaching that process from that view. So yeah, I think that's like a creative driven process. I think it's also key to look at like spend data, like what demographics are you spending most of your budget on? How does CPA trend across those demographics?
Yeah.
Does that align with like what you're expecting as a brand and who you're targeting, or is there anything any unexpected trends in there? But one of our brands at Jack it skews far older than we thought it would when we launched, and we've now started to intentionally lean into that more, and the CPA is improving further. So I think that's an underutilized like part of that meta account as well, is that demographic and age breakdown for creative process.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of brands think they know their audience better than they actually do, and a lot of the time it's when you actually dig deeper into the data, it's different to what you think or what you plan for it to be, which happens quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that's obviously everything I just spoke through there is like data, ad account. I think the other side of that is is like surveys
Yeah.
and pairing it with the qualitative piece, which we may be coming on to in a second. But
Yeah.
I'm jumping around a bit, but I think it's so powerful. I think that's the most underutilized thing, but especially within that kind of 1 to 5 mil range where you've got customers, but brands don't use that. They use it to sell to them more, but they don't use it to learn more, which I think is so valuable.
We also look at like blended CTR and TSR as well within Motion. So you can just look at it within Motion. It will actually give you like a blended view, which I think is quite interesting because you're looking for almost those weaknesses that, you know, those almost the lowest hanging fruit that you can push for further. Like if you're seeing that blended view CTR is looking fairly strong, but the issue is, you know, with blended TSR is at 18-15%, whatever it might be. We know, okay, we actually need to put a lot more emphasis on driving better hooks here as part of the creative.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do as part of our audit is like we will pull the top 5 best performing hooks within the account that have the highest TSR with the most spend. And then again, we'll come up with a conclusion as to why they work. Like, what are the common visuals we're using within those hooks? What, you know, what's the messaging? What's being said? What consumers are we speaking out to? What's the type of language that we're using when we're talking about pain points? Are there specific hook sounds that we're using, like sound stoppers on top of everything else? We've done this with a few brands. We've noticed like their best, and we've spoken about this before, but there was I was looking at it into one of the brands that we work with, and we found from doing that deep dive into the best performing hooks that I think 3 out of 5 of them were external, so they were filmed outside. So again, it's like by doing that exercise, we can learn about what those potential avenues are that we can continue to drive better hook rates.
Yeah, I think that's those. Again, that hook is so under like don't know what the word is, mind blank. Like it's the area that people struggle with the most. From what I've seen, and even just ideating off it. And if you can pattern spot across what's already worked, it's such a strong starting point.
Yeah.
We have a few. I also think once you've found a hook that works, you can really rinse and repeat it quite aggressively. With very small changes. Yeah, I also think they can form the basis of like some really good static ads using the language from the hook. Is if it's very product focused or like solution or problem solution orientated, then I think you can pull that through to like other formats really effectively, and that's something that brands don't do enough of either.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, the way we would usually do it then is, you know, we've created our bot, ad account audit, that will be its own sheet. Then we go into research, and within this, we've got 4 different stages of research. So the first is competitor research that we'll get into. Then it's audience research. Big one that we've been driving recently is organic research, because I think there's so much we can learn about. I mean, if you have problems with hooks, like all you got to do is look at some of those keywords, phrases, problems that your brand is solving, type them in on TikTok. Look at what videos have gone viral. There's a reason they've gone viral. They've captured attention. So what can we learn from that to apply to paid theory? And I think that's a great way to you know, improve your hooks as well, and that area. And then the final is reputation analysis, or you know, and also a bit of market analysis on looking more kind of externally. So I guess going firstly into competitor research, the first thing we'll do is we'll pick 3 brands that you would say maybe are your biggest competitors within the space. And we will just first do huge amounts of research into, we will use a tool called Foreplay, which I think most people listening will know, where we will just build out Foreplay boards for those competitors, and just some of their longest running ads. We'll just pull these almost mood boards of these ads to better understand like what their competitors are doing and how they're doing it. Off the back of that, we will actually, we kind of have a database that we build, and we will find, you know, the 3 to 5 longest running competitor ads, and take learnings from this and kind of go a bit deeper into each of these creatives to analyze why they worked. So, you know, you could do this again on Foreplay. You can search by longest running ads. You can also do it on Ads Library, on Meta. But we will basically create a table, and it's ad link, what is the format? Is it UGC? Is it static design? Is it high production? Where does it sit within the funnel? What's the hook? What does it use a specific framework, like a 3 reasons why? What's the angle? What's the persona? And why do we think this worked well? So a conclusion of that. And I think you can learn so much about what you can apply to your brand by doing this exercise and really granularly looking into these longest running ads with your competitors, because they're likely to be, their higher spending assets.
Yeah, I think the key here is doing the competitor research the right way. And I think that like because you fundamentally, when you're looking at an ad library, like you don't, if you're not looking at it in the right way, you're not looking for those like foreplay is golden in that sense of giving you that time frame.
Yeah,
a lot of people just take ads on face value and be like, oh, that athletic screen ads looks great, let me repurpose it. And it's like, it's been running 3 days, you have no idea if it's worked. Like they're running like 3,000 ads, like a lot of them won't be working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like such a quick win is like your competitors will usually be better than you in some area of creative. Like you might be better at statics. You like there'll be some things you can pull out of their library that you can apply as a quick win to yours.
Yeah, exactly. And you can then look at what we could do better, like how we can add to this. But then just some of the kind of core questions that we will then ask ourselves and type out our responses to is, with these competitors, what is the frequent messaging that's being used?
Yeah.
How are they utilizing their messaging to drive us through this character arc or this story or this kind of ad creative? Is there a way that they communicate their brand values, their product features, the pain points? Is there anything we can learn from that? Same with angles. I think we can learn a lot about those top performing angles. There's if there's like 2 angles that have been their longest running ads across most of their creatives, there's probably a reason for that, and that shows us that maybe those angles are the lowest hanging fruits that we need to tap into. Personas is another one. Who are their main customer personas within their ads? What are the demographic or psychological traits of the people that we're typically looking to target? Like, how are we speaking to these people? Frameworks and formats is a big one we touched on there. Like, I think, great artists still. And I think, it's not about just carbon copying what your competitors are doing, but we can learn a lot about the frameworks that they're using, or ways that they're using storytelling techniques to drive their sales. So I think that's another thing that we want to be bringing in. Also visuals. This is one that a lot of brands don't really think about, but what visual elements are these other brands using to grab attention through their ads? Are there specific colors, like aesthetics, themes? Are they prioritizing different types of visuals? Like I said about the shooting externally, that's an insight there in itself. Or are there other things that they're using visually and consistently that we can take and potentially utilize? And I think this is the final one is like emotions. So what emotions are they conveying? How do they aim to evoke those emotions through their ad creative? It's all about, this really comes back to that messaging and the messaging that we're using. And are they kind of really tapping or triggering certain pain points to engage their audience? Is there a specific tone that they're using as well in the creative? You look at like a Dr. Squatch and the tone they've got almost that more satirical comedic tone, compared to a brand like 47 Skin, which is like very emotive driven type of creative that it's deeper than just the solution of acne. It's the emotional outcome of feeling more confident from that. Yeah. So there's a lot we can learn from that kind of competitor research that we can then potentially apply to our brand.
Yeah, I think all the things you mentioned are super valuable. It'll provide you with that. If you're really early in the process and you're in those early revenue stages, it'll provide those quick wins. It provides those a bit of an idea of like a roadmap from like 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And if you're at greater scale, I think it's good to have this as an always on process, because you can get a lot of quick wins off just taking things that they've started to see that work and repurpose them for your brand to squeeze extra juice out of Meta.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna in a next episode, we're gonna go a bit deeper into like strategic buckets and opportunities, and I look at these as like the low hanging fruit opportunities that we should be testing for our brand. So we'll get into that. But the next part is the audience research. This is kind of like the social listening, which I think is really, really important, like really getting into the mindset of your audience or potential consumer. And I think there's a few different places that we will look for this. One is the ad comments. So what are people saying within the comments of your ads? Forums is a big one. So obviously Reddit or other kind of places where people accumulate online. I think Reddit is actually just like crazy valuable. Like Fred and I obviously went a lot deeper on our episode about Reddit, but I think it's a great place to understand the thought process and the mindset of the potential consumers you're trying to tap into and the language that they're using, so you can speak like them.
People speak really differently on Reddit to anywhere else, I find. Like, it's longer form, it's almost like a bit more candid in some ways, for better or worse. I think it's such a valuable place to look for ideation and feedback in general as well across the process.
Even hooks, like it's a great place. Hooks and angles. You know, you could go to Reddit and find that, you know, a potential angle is someone like it's a woman buying for her husband for a certain reason. So that's a potential angle in itself, because, you know, whatever it might be. But I think as well, it's like sometimes the brand, even though they're creating UGC from the perspective of the customer, they will speak. It feels like it's come from the brand.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand like the way that people describe their problems and how we can like use that so it feels more authentic.
100%. I think you can also like use those in the actual creative. Like, you could respond to Reddit comments, you could respond to, like, I think you can, when you're going through this process, like screenshotting, saving a bank of comments to use as comment replies, saving even overlaying them into your static assets. Like, I think there's so much you can do when, I think, try and wrap in this process into that as well, like gathering ammo to actually make the assets is really impactful.
100%. Articles is another good one. Like, obviously you can find these via Google, but, you know, statistic headlines, you know, if it's a product that's really solving a problem, I think see success with those kind of hooks. So finding those statistics within those articles, you know, and finding just better understanding the problem so you can really agitate that through your creative. And organic comments is another massive one, not only for your brand, but looking at your competitors' brands. Like, what are people saying in the comments? What are the objections? Like, how can we overcome those objections through our creative?
I think the one we haven't put in this document, I know we mentioned a minute ago, was surveying, and I think that's another audience research that dovetails really nicely into this. I think is those, and not just doing it as like, oh, I'm just going to send out a massive survey to everybody. I think we've discussed it previously, but like breaking your CRM list into like leads, people who haven't purchased, people who have purchased once, and then like loyal customers, people who've purchased, whatever that looks like for your brand. It could be 2, 3.
Yeah.
It could be an LTV based loyalty threshold, and asking those people different things to feed this process, like asking leads why they didn't purchase, objections, who they shopped with instead, even trying to pull out like anything for site journey, etc. The people who did purchase, really going into like motivations, other failed solutions, feedback, what made them decide pick you over competitors, and then people who are more loyal customers going like almost a bit open-ended and a bit more expansive in getting just as much out of them as possible, because they'll be more willing to do that. You'll have to incentivize those people, those cohorts differently, but they're such a valuable source of feedback, such a valuable source of input into this process. And you can also get statistics out of it. We've done that before, where we've been like, ask people like, how close is the scent to the original, and we'll get like 96% of people say like exact match, and then we can use that in the marketing messaging. So a great example of that is like Tev's
best performing angle, or that one static that just
Yeah.
is spent the most out of any of the creatives is just like lasts all day. That's probably the biggest objection as well that people have, whether it lasts all day. So within that survey, asking that question, and then if you get a very positive response, like you say, you can then spin that into a hook and an actual angle and talk about that. Nice. The thing we will do as well as part of this social listening exercise, we will then within this document, we will break into sections. So we'll have pain points or angles, failed solutions, objections, desired outcomes, general language, and then consistent audiences or personas. And what we will do is, when we're going through our social listening, if we see quotes we like, we'll pull them into the relevant sections. So if it's like the way someone is talking about a problem, we will pull that quote and put it straight into the pain point section. Or the objections, like people objecting to something via an ad comment, maybe we will pull that straight in. And what we're building is almost a database of potential, it's almost like it's then picking and choosing to build your messaging frameworks, in a sense, when then you get to actually creating your ad. And I think there's so much you can learn about that, because not only are you building a list of these potential pain points, failed solutions, the language people are using, the objections, but you're doing it in their voice. So we can like really make sure that we're, with this database, we're picking and choosing things for the ads and we're speaking like our audience.
Yeah, I think doing that, just and then you've got it there. It's like easy, it's quick, rather than having to go and search it out every time you're going back through this process. I think that what is an ideal if you are a brand, it's like having someone deep in this process that can continuously run it. Obviously, if we run that as from an agency perspective, but this is something you could do again every 2 weeks, every month, like keeping like the ad comments, especially, you get so many of them every time you launch a new concept.
A lot of hate.
You do. You get a lot of negative, but you can spin those into ads as well if you think about if you're creative enough.
We did that one for Tev once, didn't we? Where like we literally just pulled out like funny hate comments.
Right.
And I know what other brand? It might have been Oats Overnight did that before, but literally it's just the ad is just them responding to hate comments that were like funny hate comments, but then it's just a very great product aware type of creative that is funny as well, because you're kind of taking the piss out of yourself.
It's like that inverse. I've seen quite a few brands do it where they'll put like a 1-star review as the headline, and then underneath it they'll address it, or like they'll provide like the proof that isn't the case.
Like it was this one
1-star, the Bible ad on the tube.
Bible ad, that was it. Yeah, that was like the first one, wasn't it? And then the final part of this social listening exercise, or the audience research, is we will finally do the actual review mining. So we've got an actual prompt, and by the way, if you haven't signed up to our newsletters, you should, because we give so many lead magnets, so many resources away, including a lot of our ChatGPT prompts. So you can find those, the Sora and Hamby ones, in the link below. But we will do a prompt to basically pull out customer pain points, desired outcomes, purchase prompts, failed solutions, and then objections from that list of emails. Now, obviously, and it's as simple as just asking the question, can you pull these out and then we can just copy and paste them in. And now some aren't going to be relevant. If you've got like less than 500 reviews, it's not going to be as powerful or accurate, because again, there's just not enough data. But again, it's a really good exercise just to find some of those nuances in the data that you probably wouldn't have seen if you were just to look at it, especially if you've got a big list.
Yeah, agreed.
Nice. Next is organic, which I think like now, like, there's it's kind of throughout 2024, just organic feeling, these organic native feeling ads seem to just be performing the best across the board. So the more native you can make these ads, better. And that's why I think this is a great exercise. So what we will do is we will go on TikTok and we'll look at the brand, your brand's most viewed or engaged content. We'll look at competitors' most viewed or engaged content, most viral content around the problem, and most viral content around like potential solutions. We'll pull these again into a database, and we will do the same thing we did previously with the competitors, where we'll break down what's the hook, You know, what's the format that they're using? Is it like face to camera? Is it like a trend? What type of creative is it? What's the vehicle that they're using? The platform, some of those key metrics, so whether it be views, likes, things like that, and then key learnings that we can take from that. Because I really think then, if you think about it, we've got our competitor database, we've got our organic database, and we can just start picking and choosing some of these and reproducing them in a new way. And I think there's so much that is untapped potential with organic, and how you can take a viral video that's on organic around your niche and apply paid theory to that to run it as an actual ad creative.
I think where a couple of areas where it makes this even easier is if the brand's doing a lot of seeding. So if you're doing a lot of like organic seeding, you'll be able to search like brand name on TikTok, and there'll be hundreds of videos of people talking about your product.
Yeah.
Which influencer content has gone mega viral. I think this has become easier with the whole move to like democratize reach on platforms, because the best content actually wins, rather than it being the content that's posted by the biggest influencer.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think TikTok Shop, we've mentioned it briefly before, but like if you're running on TikTok Shop, it's so easy just to look through like what's driving affiliate revenue, and just take the hook or take the structure of that creative and flip it into meta, or flip it into just paid creative in general. So that can be a really like low cost starting point for like creative process and creative learnings, just by gifting and seeding products out.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people listening, and the objection I've heard is, if your gross margins aren't great, like how are you going to ever run on TikTok Shop? However, you've got to look at it almost as an opportunity to drive search traffic, which it does.
Yeah,
and also like it's just mass testing. Like if you find something that one of your TikTok affiliates has run and it's booted off, and you've just broken even from that, that's great, because you can then use that creative, apply that to paid, and also it's driving, you know, we see with like brands that use TikTok Shop that it really helps create these spikes in, you know, search traffic, even on different platforms like Google.
Yeah, it drives so much awareness. Just awareness again, isn't it? Like awareness that you wouldn't have generated otherwise. And yeah, it's really low cost and effort to get started, and it's never going to be as easy to do as it is right now.
Exactly.
So I recommend everyone uses it or gives it a test.
The next thing we'll do is a bit of a reputation analysis. Now, for this, we'll pull out like any news articles, like press hits, things like that again, we could potentially use as part of our creative. Now, as we know, like PR has been great this year for using that as part of the creative. Like we've even started pulling it to the forefront of ads within the hooks. You know, almost like I can't believe X publication said this about this brand, or, you know, using that PR as part of either the hook or soft CTAs throughout the creative. We'll just ask questions as well within this reputation and market analysis, because really the next phase of this is creative strategy. This is where we set our funnel splits. So you know, how many creatives do we want within unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, or most aware? So it's really important to understand, now you've done all of this research, you know, how educated is the general public on, or, you know, consumers on the problem or the potential solutions, because this will give you an indication of, okay, if they're really unaware, then we need to be probably doing more creative that is sitting within the unaware and problem aware categories.
Yeah. What would be a good example of that? Mouth tape would be probably a recent example of that, with hostage tape. Like
booting.
You're having to like, mouth tape was a fairly new thing. Like people haven't been sellotaping the mouth closed whilst they sleep for very long. So it's like, that's a brand where like just putting a load of statics in front of people with like the offer and here's some tape. Like people aren't going to go and spend $30 on that. It's all about like really educating them on like the benefits of that, the story of how the founder went through this process of like changed his life.
And yeah, like that, the way they use like landing pages as well as part of that is to educate the they've absolutely killed it.
And they're just the first one that came to my head in terms of like their funnel is so education heavy. Even though it's not a really high ticket product, it's like very like it's more steps than you'd think for that like cost for SKU, and really walks people down that like educational journey, and then drives them to convert. And I think obviously you want to be creating for each bucket, but I think over time the requirements, depending on what market you're in, can like shift. Like if I was launching another greens product, like I would go really like solution product heavy, because and just focus on trying to capture existing demand and differentiating against like the other 10 players in the market, because that will get you 0 to 1. But like then there's a ceiling to that, and it's how you kind of flip your creative process and continue to drive that scale. One interesting thing that I've been seeing brands doing more of in that, which is a little bit of a new take on like approaching that upper funnel like problem aware area, or that like how to continue to drive more scale is through like whitelisting and doing it through like the lens of like story. I think Zach Stuck mentioned it on their podcast recently about like working with whitelisting creators and doing like a UGC concept, but the first like 10 to 15, like 10 seconds of the video will just be a personal story, and then it goes into the product.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're testing a bit now, and it's working really well, which is a little bit less direct response, but allows you to keep going more like upper funnel and attracting a new audience.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why it's so important that you split across the funnel, because that goes against a lot of ad theory of like introduce the product sooner. However, if the objective is more top of funnel, then there's a reason to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Then we'll kind of create this thing, what we call like an audience flash sheet. So we've gathered all of this information. We'll have a lot more insight into the audience, the competitors, what is happening on organic social. The next thing we will then do with all of this information is build a list of the top benefits in order of what we feel is of order in importance, the top pain points, features, objections, failed solutions, and angles. So we have almost built what we feel are like the lowest hanging fruit from most important to least important for each of these areas. And we'll do the same thing again. We will bring the quotes in from the social listening exercise in underneath each of these. So benefit, will bring quotes in, whether that be from a review that someone's talking directly about that benefit, or objection, we might pull something from Reddit or from the ad comments where someone is talking about that objection. We got the quote below. So we've almost got a bank of our top benefits, objections, pain points, whatever, and then a list of quotes below that link to that specific area. So again, we can utilize the language as part of that. Then we'll go on to actually building our personas. Now, you probably won't need to do this if you have a good understanding, but I think it's still a worthwhile activity to do. And we've recently gone a much deeper on these persona tables, because I think it's great for building like messaging frameworks. So the way we will like structure our persona tables is, we'll name the persona, we'll have the age range. We will have a bit of a personality description as well, like what is this individual like, what are their interests, what's their digital footprint, so where do they live online, because I think again we can learn a lot about that, and there's some great tools like Quora and a few others that you can use to find out a bit more about your audience and where they actually live online. Obviously gender, the problem or the before state, emotional reaction to problems. So this is where like Reddit will come in. What you'll really see people there with emotional reactions to problems, and how we can learn from this and pull this in here. And again, that's useful to have, because then we can really know how to agitate the problem within the ad. The relevant angles as well to that specific persona, features and benefits, emotional reaction to benefits. Again, another important one. We can go back to our benefits section, see the quotes we've got below that from our social listening exercise, and pull some of those relevant parts in. Then the actual potential testimonial or the case study, this is what my problem was, then I got to this, and talking about the the actual product itself, and then the new state. So what is their after state of using the product? What, you know, after they've had the solution, what do they feel? What is their emotional reaction to that? How's it changed their life? So we've started going a bit deeper into these, because I think there's a lot you can like just pull out. Now within an ad, you're not going to go into each of these steps. No. With messaging frameworks, some, depending where it sits in the funnel and a few other areas, you know, some you may just be focusing on, you know, problem benefits. Some is like problem solution. Some might be features focused, if it's like a 3 reasons why or us versus them. So again, it's like just cherry picking these parts depending on your messaging frameworks.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously, like you say, it's not realistic to get all of that into a concept that's 15 to 30 seconds long, but I think it's getting it all down, getting it all there as a reference point, just and continuing to evolve and update them over time. Like,
yeah.
I think as you, like I said earlier, even your personas can shift as you grow a brand, or another persona could be introduced because you're appealing to just an audience you didn't think were going to be sort of interested in the product when you first activated.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice.
Sort of sense.
All right. Well, I think we'll finish up there, because the next episode will go more into like building some of that strategy. Ollie's going to go into, you know, his approach to hypothesizing and testing different hypotheses, and then the learnings you take from that, and as well just how we will like structure the actual strategy itself once we've gone through this research phase.
Yeah, I would just encourage everybody who's listening to kind of go through that process.
Yeah,
I think go through it, maybe use the data from the last 9-10 months of the year, and then do it again in Jan, but focus that process separately on like peak.
Yeah.
Take the learnings, and I think it'll put you in such a powerful position to kick off like from January with so much more clarity, so many more new ideas for your creative process.
Yeah, if you've got any questions on any of this as well, like comment down below, because we want to do more Q&A episodes. So any questions, either comment below, or you can obviously message one of us on Twitter and we'll get back to you. But yeah, obviously follow us, give us 5-star on Spotify, and yeah, subscribe obviously, because we're really pushing through these now. We've got loads of episodes lined up, so yeah, see you on the next episode.